Okay, so first of all, I would like to present myself. My name is Unė Liandzbergytė. I'm actually want to talk from my own perspective a little bit, just to say that I'm a really big member of the Nightlife. And I'm sure I'm well aware that everyone else is, just probably maybe from another perspective, from a very serious point of view. I'm just, from the attendee. I just love music. I just love to meet people and whatsoever. But also, when we think about nightlife, I think it was already presented that it's a big part of the cultural life itself, and it presents us with a lot of joy, with a lot of music, making new connections, but at the same time, it also presents a range of risks. Some of them were already mentioned in some of your presentations, but I think it's very important to discuss it a little bit further, so that's what we're gonna do here. Probably I'd like to start with each of you just stating what is your input in this discussion and in this topic, and also what bothers you the most, because I think first we should address the issues, then talk a little bit what is already been done or happening, and what other improvements could be done. So I'd like to divide this discussion into these three parts. So first of all, your input and what bothers you the most about it.
Should I start?
Yeah, I think, why not?
Okay, so my name is Rusne Kirtiklytė, and I'm from non-governmental institution Ribologija, which was mentioned before. We helped to create the poster that's hanging there about how to understand whether your drink was spiked or not. And Ribologija is the first and the only platform in Lithuania which talks about sexual violence particularly. And we work on sexual violence prevention. We work on topics such as like rape, drugs, gender-based violence, domestic violence, etc., etc. So yeah, so you were asking about our biggest concern. So for Ribologija, definitely is sexual harassment and rape drugs.
Okay, thank you.
So hello, I'm still Natalie, still the night mayor of Tallinn, I hope. I haven't checked my phone. But so what bothers me the most about this topic is perhaps that it's not being taken seriously enough. And for some people, it isn't like a real topic, but also when we talk about safety, we talked about so many different things. So we talk about, sexual harassment, which I think that is a difficult topic to address because often because of generational issues. Then we talk about harm reduction, and when it comes to harm reduction, then I'm bothered the most by the really stagnant drug policies of Estonia. So that maybe are the two things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, is it working?
It seems so.
Okay, great. I'm gonna put the bottle away from me for a second. That's not gonna work. This is gonna work. Cool. Okay, thanks. Hi, my name is Micòl. I am with the Vienna Club Commission. I'm a project manager, and my main focus was safety. Before I started at the Vienna Club Commission, I led an awareness team in Vienna, and safety has always been a topic for me and for my team. Do we all hear that? Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I was working a lot from an activist perspective, and when I joined the Vienna Club Commission, I was tasked with the workshop series called Safer Partying, where we asked people to join. It's a workshop series that lasts 7 months with 6 different experts to teach bar people, bookers, DJs, awareness teams, security people on very much the intersectionality of nightlife, and to make it safer. So a general concern that we're noticing, because awareness is quite established in Vienna, is the term that we like to use, awareness washing, which is where a club or promoters say that they do have awareness teams at their event, at their clubs, and then, you know, it still doesn't make it safer, and things still do happen. So we try to circumvent that in different ways, but maybe we'll get to talk about that a little later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Giedrė, psychologist. I help Vilnius people with the mental health and also contribute to those workshops Emilia told you about staff's mental health. And I also participate in a Nightlife. So Nightlife has this professional and personal side to me. So mental health and especially staff and workers' mental health is the thing I care the most.
Okay, thank you.
Hi to everybody.
Wow, with some effects. Do we have another microphone, or maybe we can share?
Sound effect. Okay, I'll try. So I'm this. I'm from initiative Be Safe Lab, and we work in music festivals and nightclubs as well. And we provide information for participants about drug and their risks, and provide emotional support 24 hours for people who have some issues with using drugs. And we follow harm reduction philosophy. That's it.
Okay, so thank you everybody who presented yourself. As I'm hearing, I would say that there are a few like main topics, because we just have an hour or maybe less to discuss all this, but I still want to touch some of like really sensitive ones. Probably I would like to start just because from some recent events that happened in Lithuania, there were a lot of testimonies on social media from people who were abused, sexually abused, or abused in the substance of GHB. And that kind of provoked a lot of like a really strong response from the society. And I think we had this also like lynch law or whatever, and everyone was like really talking about it. Now it kind of dimmed down, but I don't think that the issue is resolved. So I'd like to have everyone's or you like perspective about, first of all, like the drug abuse or like this mental behavior that people do, and how we can like probably oversee or foresee like this kind of events of happening, because I think, you know, people share their stories, but still we don't have an answer what to do with that.
I can start maybe.
Sure.
It's like very relevant with what Ribologia does as an institution. So yeah, so talking about, you mentioned a couple of things. I would like to separate raping people with just using drugs, because not all people who use drugs rape people. And there are also different terms, spiking and rape drugs. They are not dissimilar, because when you spike someone, you can spike that person just because you want to steal something, or you want to, yeah, for example, you want to steal money or their identity documents or something. And when you spike person with intention to rape or sexually assault him or her or them, it's called then, yeah, using basically rape drugs. But rape drugs can be any kind of drugs, not essentially GHB. It can be even Xanax or whatever, like that people, alcohol, yeah. It can be basically anything that makes a person lose consciousness, and then it makes it easier to assault that person and use it, him, her, them, for your own pleasure. It's a like, yeah, pleasure. But yeah, so it's a very different thing from just using drugs. And talking about sexual violence in general, so we can just talk about the roots of it. It's based in the same thing as any kind of violence against, for example, women, because women are the usual victims of that. So it's based in stereotypes. It's based on objectification of women, on gender roles, on thinking that a woman can be just used for your own pleasure, etc., etc. So there is a lot of correlation with stereotypes and harmful gender norms when we talk about sexual violence and when we talk about rape drugs.
Okay, anyone wants to say something? Okay, maybe I'd like to ask Giedrė, like what would you say about like the emotional state of being, why people do that, where like the roots that she was talking about, like is there some kind of, I don't know, is it like deeply rooted in our psyche that it's just okay to do that? Or like if we are on some kind of substance, doesn't really matter if it's a drug or it's like alcohol or anything else. But if we are on it, it kind of means that we're loose and we're open to do some stuff. Or another person is like automatically has, like we have his consent just because we're having fun.
Okay, so I wish the answer would be simple. Is it like that or is it like that? But it's so complex, and I would like to point that sexual assault or sexual harassment, it's not happening only in a nightlife, and like in a clubs or bars. It can happen anywhere, even at my house. So it's not our, as a bars and clubs committee, problem. It's so complex and so rooted, as you said, deep in our psyche. But in this context, in nightlife, what we can do. So I think the most important thing is to talking from my perspective, my personal. I mean, as a participant, what can I do? I must learn my boundaries. I must learn to speak, to get some help if I need to. As a person who is violent, who wants to spike someone or rape or assault, it's not. You won't. Okay. I have so many thoughts.
I know it's like a very complex topic.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I'm talking from the perpetrator's perspective. It's not an issue can be solved in a club or in a bar, or with I don't know, nightlife office campaigns. People need to address the issues on their own, the mental health professional, with friends, with anyone, and it's so complex. My thoughts are so mixed, but yeah, you can.
So I think, and what I also see, that especially like in this part of the world, so Eastern Europe, why I also said earlier that there is a generational thing, is that we actually never had a discussion about boundaries. I mean, we in Estonia haven't had it. I'm not sure whether you have or not, but actually I don't think that, like, so I'm 33, and I don't think that when I was a teenager, like, someone taught me that it's not okay when someone touches you, or it's not okay to say some certain things. And also what we witness now with the campaign, or just me talking with, you know, like 21-year-old people who either work as an artist or at the bar in the nightlife setting, they say that like 40-year-old guys come to them and are like, what do you mean I can touch you? Since when? Like, since forever, but we haven't talked about it. And some people still actually think that it is okay, and it is just a joke. But touching someone without their consent is not the joke. And also, so the other discussion we are having in a wider public in Estonia right now is the law of consent. I don't know whether it's accepted here already or no.
I think I have.
I'll tell about consent. You can finish.
Okay, so and also that the discussion there so quick goes to those like stupid jokes, like, oh, does it mean that when I go to bed with my wife, then I have to ask for her permission, like she has to sign a document? Like, if you don't understand whether your wife wants to sleep with you or not, then there's a big problem. And I think that those are the things that we in our societies have missed. We haven't had the discussion, and this is also important. Why do we have to do those campaigns and those awareness campaigns, just to bring the topic out to the light? So you know, when you're 20 years old and someone says or asks or touches you in a way you don't want, you don't even understand that they are doing something wrong. You think you are doing something wrong. It's your behavior, and that's something that needs to be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can add on that, because in Lithuania we don't have a normal, proper, comprehensive sexuality education. We don't have that. In a lot of other countries, they had that, when they teach children about boundaries, about sexual violence, about consent, etc., etc. So in Lithuania, we don't have that. Even when we have, it's usually very like religion-based, or something where a lot of patriarchy is still put into the children's minds, that women must submit, etc., etc. And these all cultural things, and the lack of proper education about consent, about boundaries, etc. It comes back also in the club culture, in all kinds of cultures. And what was before mentioned about sexual violence, yeah, it's true that the majority of sexual violence happens at home. And we call it like intimate partner violence, because it's not that the clubs are the evil place where all the sexual violence happens. No, the majority of cases happen at homes. And yeah, adding on that consent law, so basically we tried, the Laisvės partija tried to put the phrase consent into our penal code. We don't have that yet. And they failed because, yeah, there were the same type of jokes from the old members of the parliament, etc., that said, oh, no, I'm gonna have to sign something before having sex with my wife. But and it did not pass yet. But it's a crucial thing to have consent in our penal code, because now we only have the no is no law, which means that if you were raped, you can say that you were raped only if you actively fought the perpetrator. But if you got the response that your body just freeze, and it happens to people in stressful situations, or you were blackmailed, or you were, like, I don't know, endangered, someone was putting like a knife to your neck, and you didn't say nothing, so then it's, yeah, you weren't raped. You can't say that you were raped. Hence, we need consent to put in our penal code, because then if there was no yes, then it's a rape. And yes is a stronger case than only no is a no, because you can't say no sometimes if you are just frozen from, yeah, like scaredness, etc., etc.
Okay, so when we are still on this topic about like sexual harassment, because I think it's like really complex from everything what you've said and still can be said, but in a practical way, I'd like to ask Girvydas maybe, because they work in the BC lab on a practical. Okay. With the practical stuff. So while I'm still asking the question, maybe the microphone will still start working. So basically, because I met you myself on some festivals, and I saw the people who are coming to Be Safe Lab for some kind of counseling, but mainly probably something, you know, related to health, some of like emotional state of being, a little bit about like, you know, the effect of some drugs. But do the people come from, you know, the sexual perspective? Are they not afraid to ask for counseling? Do they even express that, you know, I just witnessed or I just experienced something, I'm not sure how should I understand what happened to me? Do they ask that?
It happens. You know, first I would like to say that what we should do, we should encourage people, participants or visitors of festivals and nightclubs to help each other. And I think it is very important because people are shy to speak, shy to tell. And I think what we do, we slowly see a tendency, especially in festivals who have old traditions, that people started to help each other. They come to us, they tell that somewhere is an issue, and we should encourage this behavior. If you see a person in trouble, just come to him or her and ask what is going on. I think it's very important. Of course, people who comes or somehow are brought to our spot at the beginning, they are how to say hiding the situation, but our specialists are able to discover all the situations and to help them, but it's not easy.
Which raises my other question, is it always easy to determine what is happening to a person? Do we actually, it's just a philosophical question. I'm sure that not any one of us can actually be 100% certain, but in general, you know, when you said that we should encourage the behavior to help each other, but is it easy to do that? Is it easy to know if the person is in trouble, if you won't be rejected, if you won't be, you know, if you won't invade someone's space, someone's emotional state of being, you know, it's just a philosophical question.
It's not easy, but we look at the symptoms, what is going on what status is the person, and because in our team work psychologists, doctors, specialists, social workers, they are professionals how to recognize what is going on. It's not easy, but we do it. Slowly, and for a very long time.
So I think Micòl has, okay, yeah.
I would like to add that very good point that it's better to be sure than to question the situation. If you see some, I don't know, weird behavior, just go intervene. We are afraid to intervene, to ask questions, but it's better to make sure and help if needed. If not, you will be safe and sound that you asked and you made sure. And we should it goes to every one of us. We should not be ignorant. I think that needs to stop. We need to help each other, our friends, the company we came in, but also the strangers, because
yeah, I just had this before preparing myself to this discussion. I was just thinking, like, what would rely better, like, would lay better on my consciousness? The fact that I was rejected trying to help, or the fact that I didn't help and, I don't know, people, you know, the person ended up dead. So yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of like, it's not.
People are very friendly here. We're sharing.
So hello. I was thinking about one specific incident as well, where I was doing my shift at a club, and there was this person that seemed rather distressed and unsure, and so I came up to the person, and they thought I was hitting on them, and they were like, "I'm not gay." I'm like, "Okay." I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask how you're doing. And later on, she did come back to me. And the person she was with was kicked out of the club later on because of some difficult behavior. I think, you know, in that moment, I felt a bit, I think rejected is a good word, because I came up to her and I was wondering if then she felt like I was being too aggressive towards her for asking how she's doing, for the fact that it would go as far as her thinking that I would flirt with her or whatnot. But later on, it also turned out that she had never seen an awareness person, that this was the first time that someone would come up to her and be like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" I think what I asked was like, "How are you?" or something like that, and that went down this way. And that was kind of an experience that I appreciated that. And then the next year at a festival, the same thing happened again. And then, you know, I'd rather ask, and then they have you on their radar, and they know, okay, this is an awareness person. And in case anything else happens throughout the night, they know who to come to. So I think that's the best thing we can do.
Yeah, when you talk about awareness, I know that you all already like had this practice of like organizing for like specific workshops for like specifically trained people who would be working as teams, like specific teams in clubs, festivals, various other parts, that they are responsible actually for this like well-being and making sure that everyone is okay. But like this requires a lot of work and I think a lot of education as well to be that not only these teams, but maybe each of us, what do you think about, like how can we transmit the same ideas to like the general community, which to all of us belongs, same, club owners, participants, DJs, whatever, whoever is in this area of...
I think in that sense it has a lot to do with exposure. We were also talking about that yesterday, is that for the workshop series, for example, we bring in experts. We bring in experts on anti-sexism, anti-racism. We have a whole workshop dedicated to queerphobia and how to work through that with people from the queer community. I think the best way to go is to just expose them to terms, for example. There's specific... Oh, that's not me, that's a coffee machine, okay. It's about specific terms. I know when I started doing any form of activist work at the beginning, I was in a group with only white people, and that's the first time I kind of felt like, okay, they have different realities than I do. And I think it's very important to focus on that, to just say, this is not your reality, and what does that mean, and how do you go through the world, and how do I? And I think that's where exposure comes in, where it's very important, the experts that are teaching, for example, we also have a workshop on barriers, and that's in regards to disability, but also in regards to financial barriers, and neurodivergence, for example, which is such a big part of clubbing, strobe lights, things that are just very, can be very stressful for people. I think it's very helpful because we have commercial and non-commercial club people, club owners, DJs, bookers. We just have this bunch of people and they kind of get to sit in a room for 4 hours per month, and they have to get to know each other, and they have to have those, I don't want to say awkward conversations, but I have eavesdropped on a couple of them, and so I know that that's been really helpful, because you kind of just let them work it out together. That's been the most helpful and also extremely touching experience, actually.
Because you see like a positive impact on people that they, It's incredible.
There was this one club owner who was like, well, I've always cared about the ladies feeling safe at the club. And then at the end of the session, he used different words. The terms that he used were different. He said it's extremely important to who is the person that is affected. It wasn't who's the lady. Like, the terms he used were so more precise and specific. And I think that's very, very important.
So he's more human than a hero, right?
Yeah. Oh, and he's the best in general. But yeah, it's been extremely nice to, you and I were talking about that before as well. It's just nice to see that, you don't know these people, so they look a certain way, and you assume that they wouldn't necessarily care, but, they just haven't been given the chance to learn and to be educated on these topics.
Natalie wanted to mention
something.
I
just wanted to add that persistency is really important, that we just have to continue doing, different measures, be it a campaign or a workshop, and then we have to go back to the same venues and to the same people and remind them. And then at one moment, what will also hopefully happen is that the audiences, people who go out, start to recognize when there are promoters and venues who don't follow the suggestions and who don't want to be inclusive and who don't care whether how people feel, and hopefully this will then also end up, in people not going to those places anymore, meaning that that it will become a new social norm.
A bit other question, but I think it still circles in the same area. Do you think people in general want to to put the blame on somebody, just to point fingers at somebody, just to say that, well, this is the club owner who's responsible, or this is the security guy who's responsible, or or this is the DJ who thinks that he's better than anyone, who is responsible? And can we actually, avoid that somehow?
I think it's easier, right? I mean, I think with the other question as well beforehand, if it is something that we do in terms of spiking and in terms of, I think it's an excuse to not spend any time on introspection, I guess. From what I was hearing as well from all of you is that it's a bit different in Vienna, for example, to use how it happens there is the club owners never really seem to get any of the blame, and it's a lot of the time it's the promoters. So what happens is we have some very incredible collectives in Vienna working, and if anything happens during one of those events, it's the promoter's fault. It's because they didn't have enough security, when really it should be a collective failing. And I think that the way we look at failure is just, you know, in regards to this topic of canceling and whatnot, where it should just really be a thing of, this happened, how do we move forward? It's much more, this happened, how do we save face? I think that's where it's just, you're missing the point on an opportunity of learning and of how do we go from here. I think that's in general a huge issue. And also then, I don't want to say the wrong people being blamed, but kind of losing focus of who is to blame, actually, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to add that, as you mentioned before, like it's very easy to just blame everyone. But for example, in Lithuania, in our society, it's a lot of the times the person who was the victim is blamed. And after all those spiking and rape drugging stories resurfaced, a lot of our journalists were writing tips for people, especially for girls, of course, but for people in general, how to be safe from rape, drugs, etc., etc. And we should not focus on that. We should focus on the perpetrators, because we should be all, as humans, just be safe. Yeah, like if we lived in an utopian world. But actually, we should not tell the victims to be smarter. Next time, we should talk about perpetrators. So with Ribologia, we did a campaign where we just said like how not to get spiked, you know, how not to get raped. Just don't put the rape drugs in the drink. If you want to rape someone, call for help. Maybe your friend or someone will help you not to rape someone. So yeah, because we should change the narrative. Instead of like victim blaming, we should like blame the one who perpetrated that thing. So yeah, so it's just like a thought.
Yeah, something that Carly Heath from Bristol, she's the nighttime officer there, said that if I go out, it's not me who has to take care of my drink. It's you who should not put anything into my drink.
Exactly.
No, rape drugs, in my personal opinion, is like the lowest low. I don't comprehend how it can happen. But at the same time, there were some testimonies as well on, you know, from guys who actually would say that they're the good guys. And I think a lot of people, like, it resonated with them. You know, with a lot of guys who would say that, you know, I never thought that I'm the bad guy. Well, okay, I didn't rape anybody, but was I taking advantage in some way? I was being nice, maybe too flirty, maybe, you know, drinking with everybody, just having fun, but then eventually, you know, had sex with a girl and then just, you know, left her and, you know, she was naive and whatsoever. So my question maybe also is to think about, like, do we all, you know, is it easier to blame somebody, or is it easier maybe to even think with what kind of emotional state I come into a place, a bar, a club, or whatever? Because I think a lot of people, unless they're real criminals, they have their own reasons, or they think or they interpret situation differently.
We know that the criminals happen, I mean, it's life. But I think that the most important thing in this topic is to train bars, clubs, and festivals organizers and stuff. I think it's only one way to avoid all these issues. And we do such a trainings thanks to Vilnius Night, I won't say club, Vilnius Night Office, how to say in English, I don't know. And we train for very practical things. I mean, how to recognize a person in trouble, how to come to him or her, what to say, what not to say. I mean, I think it is very strong instrument how to minimize crime in clubs and all other places as well, I think.
But also both the campaign I did with the Social Insurance Board, and also now November is the month of ending violence against women, and our former president did a really big campaign as well, and the main messages for both of those campaigns was for the third person. So not to people who work at the venue, not to the victim, not to someone who is acting in a not okay way, but all of us who we notice, to not turn away and to actually go and ask and interrupt the situation. And I think that this is also a very important, even an important thing to just remind to ourselves that in a way it is our responsibility. If we see something, then we have to say something, or we have to do something. And then there was an incident in a nightclub when where a girl was lying on the floor, and another girl who didn't know her went to the security and asked what's wrong, and the security guy asked her to leave. Took the girl who was lying on the floor, saying that she will never get into this club anymore, and took her to the backstage, which is something you should not do if you don't know what's happening. And well, I found out later, I talked with the club owner, and they were very surprised and said that this is not the instructions they give to the security people. I think the security guy also didn't continue working there, but you know, like, if it wasn't for that girl who just felt that something's wrong, like, we don't know what would have happened with this. We still don't know what happened and why she was lying on the floor, but you know, it could have had a very bad ending.
Of course. As Girvydas mentioned, that of course you have like a really good training for the staff, for the security, for you know, club owners and whatsoever. But if we're thinking about like the attendees, if you know, I'm just like a participant, is there already a developed system, like step by step? If I see this, I do that. If I feel like that, I go there. I ask for this or for that. You know, do we have like all this? I'm not sure how to name it, but like a manual. Does our
algorithm.
like
Algorithm.
Okay, we can, you know, I'm just like a person who is like right now really scared, reading all about these like testimonies, really don't know if I can still go to a bar, if my drink is gonna be spiked or not. Will I know where is this person that I can come to? Like, will my friends know? Like a lot of like, you know, afraid mind. And do we have this like, I don't know, step-by-step program or like a manual that I would know what to do in any kind of case?
At this moment, we help to develop safety model or algorithm for one of nightclubs in Vilnius, and it goes very well. On other side, from side of nightclub, it is very important to communicate to attendees, as you say, about safety, you can be safe, how you can inform staff if you are in troubles. It's so-called very popular. You go to bar and say angel shot. I would like angel shot. But then you have to develop all the model how you deal with the situation further. So and I think every club should develop such a model and to communicate to people.
Well, I'm just trying to a little bit maybe to provoke, and I think Micòl said that, you know, there's this, you know, kind of artificial awareness teams, that not everything goes into practice. So what's your experience?
Oh, cool. Hi. It doesn't work. Someone wants to give me another microphone.
No, but I can take this one if you want.
Yeah?
Just have it.
Be yours now.
Just because I like having two.
Something that I've done before and that we're currently working on. So there's a thing called awareness concept, and basically we go through all the scenarios. There is scenario training for these kinds of things. I've learned that, you can think of as many scenarios as you want, and there's still that one you never thought about that will, affect you. So you just have to be quick on your feet, is what I think. Right now with this workshop series as well, what we're trying to do, something that is happening in the city of Vienna right now, is that there is going to be an awareness law, meaning that every club that can hold, starting from 300 people, has to have an awareness and security concept, which for me, I'm in general very happy about this, but also because it means that security and awareness people will have to work together, which is very important because from what I'm seeing, and I don't know if you have that too, but as a counseling position, it's different than being a security person. Security people are being seen as those big guys who all they ever do is kick out people and you barely talk to them. And that in general is not how it should be. Security people also need that knowledge, so it should be a very top to bottom kind of, it should be a structure where everyone is aware of everything. And so in order to also help participants and attendees, partiers, is a code of conduct. In my experience, that's been extremely helpful. You have this code of conduct that we also used it for the Vienna After Dark conference, and basically it just kind of laid out all the rules and a bit of housekeeping, and also in general, we don't want people to, we want for everyone to have a harassment-free experience. These are the things that we don't want to see, and what is also helpful is to say we encourage, and not to say like we're against this and that, but to say we encourage you to look at this, we encourage you to follow those guidelines. And in the cases that there were, when there were incidents, we could also relate back to the code of conduct and say, this is kind of the rule that you broke here, and that's, people will then just know, okay, if I go to an event, I'll look for the code of conduct. You make it very visible. We have a QR code where you can look at it online, and all of these things just kind of, you learn at some point that also, as you were saying, like that's life, criminality, crime is a thing, but what we can do, what we can attempt is to de-escalate and to minimize that harm.
Yeah, while you were talking, I just remembered, some cases. Okay, it's easier, for example, if I know that there's like a Be Safe lab, some like meeting point in the festival. I just know it exists, it's marked in the map, and everybody knows and can go straight there. And, the people are working then 24/7, all is good. It's like people know. But for example, if you come to a nightclub or like a concert and you're like, okay, I can see a poster with a QR code, but there is no like general, concept or idea that someone else just says that this is how it's supposed to be, this is how we behave in this area. And then I thought about it in some clubs. I remember going there just like that they would put stickers on your camera phone. It seems like it's such a small thing, but it kind of gives the tone of how we behave here. Of course, this is just for, publicity or non-publicity, so they would just like put a sticker on your camera. But at the same time, they greet you, they take your coat, and they give you a sticker and say, no photos, no videos in this event. So do you think, is it possible to somehow do that in just with more serious topics, not, publicity?
What do you mean when you say the publicity? Like, for example,
people just don't want people to, upload stories or take pictures of the event. They want to keep it like closed,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I like code of conducts that are very dry and very to the point, where we also do this thing where you're about to head in, and there's also a selection team. So before you even enter the club, the selection team will ask you, do you know what this event is about? Do you know what to expect? I can tell you more about it. And that also gives you a bit of a feeling. I know that people get scared when they hear selection, like, am I even gonna allowed to come in? But in a lot of spaces, this has been a custom for a very long time. When you think about BDSM and kink events, there's this extra layer of safety which we should just all apply, and that is also something that Vienna and German-speaking countries actually are doing right now, where they are establishing minimum standards for awareness. So it's basically a tool and a manual to kind of tell people and teams, this is kind of what we expect. And what I've learned is that you can adapt this to your events. And I think in that way, yeah, you have to be serious, you have to be cut and dry, but the price, quote unquote, is that you have a safe night.
Also, people will find out really fast if it's only for publicity, because sooner or later something will happen, and if there's no one there to help you from the bar staff, then it's also, you know, it's only there for good publicity, so it will come out very fast.
And I think it's sometimes a thing of like, so a lot of awareness teams, they wear fairy lights, for example, at their events to be visible. In our team, I had a bit of like visual issues with the fairy lights, so instead we wore black shirts that just had awareness written on it, and that already gave you that sense of authority. And it's just these really little things where it's just like they're wearing a black top, maybe I shouldn't, you know, be silly around them, and that really works. Where I was working at a more commercial club, and it's the first time they also experienced an awareness team, and I did see a bit of fear, a bit of like, okay, maybe not in front of Micòl, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. And of course, it's a bit weird to be seen as this authority, but again, like the benefit of it is that people will also come to you and will see you as this person of authority. It's important to kind of just establish who you are in that room and then how you can mediate.
Okay, how not to be shy or afraid to even start this conversation, let's say, to approach a person, how not to be shy or maybe embarrassed that, you know, oh, for example, I'm wasted, I'm completely drunk, I'm acting weird, you know, I already did some stuff which I regret already, but at the same time I feel very vulnerable and I need help. But, you know, there's guilt, there's embarrassment, there's something. Do you, like, I don't know, maybe psychology experts could say how to, I don't know, overcome this kind of thing? Or, I don't know, from which part? Is it your own, you know, responsibility not to be afraid? Or is it the staffs or, you know, awareness teams that should encourage you not to be afraid?
It's not always visible that I'm struggling, so it is my responsibility. And how to do something, just do it. Breathe in, breathe out, and just go. There's no magical exercise, magical, I don't know, saying or ritual. You just, if you struggle, just go. It's better to be with someone, ask for help, and not end up on the ground unconscious or whatever.
I would add one thing that, like, I'm a medical doctor, so there's a lot of stigma surrounding, like, getting an ambulance from a bar or a club. And a lot of people, even when their friends say, maybe I'll call an ambulance for you, or even like, yeah, the bar owner comes and says, maybe I'll get an ambulance for this person. Those people who had been doing drugs or some kind of illicit thingies, they usually say, no, don't call an ambulance. And then it's very important that we don't listen to them and we still call an ambulance if we see that the person is struggling, because it's better to call an ambulance and save a life rather than just let that person just go somewhere, or the other person, people maybe could use that person, etc. So yeah, so it's our responsibility, even if a person is saying no, don't call an ambulance, to always call an ambulance if we see that there is a need for that.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned before, it's better to be with a bit lighter consciousness.
My experience of 8 years working festivals show that festival organizers are responsible. I mean, my experience is different. I mean, we have some stigma or stereotypes as well. For example, during 8 years in festivals, we called ambulance 3 times.
I called it myself while working in the festival.
Yes, only 3 times, and any organizer didn't tell anything that, no, don't do it. I mean, we should go to be more responsible.
Okay, I think this is like such a complex topic that we could discuss it for many hours and probably have a little bit even more. It could get even more problematic, or it could get easier. But as we have like still some minutes left, what are your like maybe some different insights that we haven't mentioned during this hour?
I would just like to add to the ambulance topic that it's also important, as for example the night office or the authority or the clubs or whatever, to be in the discussion with the ambulance and the police and explain to them that people don't trust them. And this is also something that actually the police and the ambulance have to work on, like with what do people think about them. And hopefully soon in Estonia we will have the law that when I call the ambulance to someone and I've also taken drugs, that the ambulance will not test me, and also they are not allowed to call the police. And this will actually, it's proven that this will actually save lives. And we also see it with young people, so like minors, that they don't have the guts to call the police or the ambulance because they think that they will end up being in trouble. But it's so important to call the ambulance. So I definitely encourage, if you're not in this discussion with the police and ambulance, then you should.
Yeah, because the person needs help without judgment at that time.
Yeah, I know that I know from a case of a friend who their drink was spiked, and so they called the ambulance themselves, and they went there alone, and they just ended up in this. I don't know if it's a rehabilitation station per se, but basically they were put on some antibiotics, and immediately they were next to a person who was in the middle of cold turkey, so basically kind of getting off drugs, and no one actually checked on my friend. They just immediately said, oh, this person is on some kind of drugs and they look awful. And I would like to mention that this person was also a person of color and a trans person, so I still wonder if it was really about them looking drugged or if it's just racism and transphobia, because turns out that 3 other people had the same experience that night, 3 other people were spiked, a completely different experience as well, and that's kind of where I think it's very, very important to remember that, you know, we talk about sexualized violence and that it happens in the home, and that, you know, we talk about drugs, we talk about spiking, but that it happens, it feels so blatant because it happens at night. But that's what makes club culture and nightlife so relevant, is that where these things happen, we just look at them in a way of where the blame game kind of starts, or where we focus on the dangers. But that's just because, you know, club nightlife will always be such an integral part of life. And so that's why we just have to kind of remove so many of those stigmas and focus on, okay, but what happened? And not that happened because you went out that night, because that's not going to change.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, in Lithuania we have a law which says that ambulance does not have a duty to call to police if they have patient with drugs. So, but not all of us, we know this law, and society in general does not know this law, and even some of ambulance staff as well. So it is issue. We have a good law, but the issue is our professionalism. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else who wants to say their final words?
I would just say that it's very interesting to share the experiences with other countries, because in Lithuania we started talking about like sexual violence and rape drugs basically like a year ago. So we are very young in these topics, and it's very good that this conversation is happening, that we are here all together and trying to find solutions and sharing the experiences, because Lithuania has a long way to go. And yeah, and it's very good that things are happening and we are moving forward.
I would like to note some positive things, because I think maybe that's the professional thing, like bad and good. But some clubs and bars in Lithuania are doing the right things. They are on the right path and understands the prevention, and they have rules they follow and encourage other people to follow. Like we do not discriminate, we do not assault and whatnot, and that is the important thing to me. I'll go to the club which is conscious rather than which is not.
Yeah.
I would say that three things in nightclubs must be of highest quality: drinks, music, and safety.
Okay, I think we have our very positive conclusion. So thank you for participating in this discussion, and hopefully all of us can be more aware, more caring to each other, and stay safe.